as a student, I don't have time to cook 24/7. So it's time to meal prep. Let's get making some food so we don't forget to nourish our body. Hi guys, I'm Oksana and welcome back to my channel and to this week's video where I'm gonna show you guys what I meal prep for this week. I've been there many times.
I get home after having hours of lectures
And my willpower to cook is this. So it's just nice to have something ready. You can put in a plate, warm up and just eat. Forget about cooking a bunch of stuff. It's stressing about what to eat. Worst thing ever as a student. You want to concentrate on your studies. We're gonna meal prep now because I have time and this week is gonna be very busy for me. So also all of these recipes are just like completely made up. It's just what I have from the fridge. I'm just putting it together. So hopefully it inspires you guys to experiment with your cooking. I don't know. Let's just get into the video. I am still talking too much. We have no time to waste here, people. We are students. Now, where to start? How to actually meal prep? The problem that many people have when it comes to meal prep is that they don't know what to do. It was very hard at the start for me to know what and how one should meal prep. I could just cook whatever and cut some veggies and be like, is this meal prepping? But after some time, I've come to nail down my go-to method. After trying meal prepping since I began my college experience, almost now a year of living alone, trying to be an adult, I have found the easiest method to go about meal prepping. The way that has made it very easy for me to meal prep is doing 5 things and changing them throughout the weeks. Let's start with the first thing that you should meal prep, which is doing a dish. And the easiest way to go about this is to do oven tray dish or one pot recipes, so you can use the minimal amount of utensils possible so you don't have to wash a lot, because we all know washing is not that fun. At least for me, it's not that fun. And this is perfect when I come home late and basically have no willpower to live, let alone cook anything. It's very easy to just have a meal ready and just heat up in the microwave. And of course, you can always put some extra veggies on the side or top it off with some other fun toppings. But at least the main dish is already done. It takes minimal time to just sit down and enjoy a good dinner. It's also perfect for me to have lunch ready for the next day if I think I'm not gonna have time to pack anything the night before. But I usually do 1 dish, however you can do 2. I normally do enough for 4 or 3 portions. It also depends how your week looks like. That is where the experimenting part of meal prep kind of comes in. Anyways, the second category of things that you need to meal prep is a sauce. I always make some sort of sauce. This is normally an avocado sauce. When I have lots of avocados, I bought pesto sauce if I accidentally bought too much spinach. Also maybe a tomato sauce. Then when I have beans left over, then I can make like a cheese sauce. Normally I do this with chickpeas or white beans. Having a go-to sauce is a must, and it's perfect, for example, for me because I tend to make sandwiches for lunch. I use them as spreads on my sandwiches. They're perfect for keeping kind of the sandwich together, and they're also perfect when you don't know really what to do. Normally what I do is, for example, I would then cook pasta and then put the sauce on top and then add some extra veggies and some tofu or some seitan. It kind of allows you to also get creative in the kitchen, kind of figure out what to do with it. Moving on to the third thing that you should meal prep would be carbs. Now what I mean by carbs, I mean boiling some rice, some pasta, just plain and simple, some couscous, some bulgur, some quinoa, whatever you have, whatever you've bought, boil it plain and have it in a Tupperware, ready to go whenever you need to quickly whip up a meal. Basically, it's a time saver throughout the week, perfect for you to pair up with the sauce that you made, or basically just to get a bit more creative in the kitchen because you know you kind of have to use it up. What I love about this one the most is that at the end of the week, I almost always have a tiny bit left over. That means that on the weekends I can have my famous garbage bowl, which is basically all your leftovers from the week mixed in. It's not like eating leftovers where you put stuff together. It's putting the leftovers and taking it to the next level and mixing them up. And that's basically how garbage bowls are supposed to be made. Mixing everything in and eating everything mixed together. Otherwise, you're not experiencing the true power of garbage bowls. Don't judge before you try. They're my little babies, okay? Anyways, moving on to the fourth thing that you need to cook, that is roasted veggies. We've all been there where we open the fridge and there's something smelling bad, and that's probably that zucchini that you forgot at the back end of the fridge. I've been there too many times. I tend to do my groceries on the weekly, so I've experienced sometimes that I accidentally bought too much of something and in the middle of the week it's already gone bad and I've had to throw the whole thing. Roasting the vegetables has been a lifesaver. Roasted veggies, you can use them to enhance any of your dishes. You can add them to your main dish that you made that week. Having already roasted veggies ready to eat makes it easier to incorporate more veggies into your diet, so that's a plus. Here I also like to sometimes cut some vegetables that I know tend to not go bad even if you cut them, like carrot or asparagus or cauliflower, pumpkin, and that means that I save time cutting the vegetables when I need them in the future. And now let's move on to the fifth thing that you have to do, and the last thing. And this is the one I enjoy most doing personally, and this is the secret component. And this is where you get to kind of decide what you want. Here is basically doing maybe some roasted nuts, or it might be making some baked goods like banana bread or some muffins or bread, whatever you fancy really. Basically mostly focus on doing maybe snacks that you can take throughout the week with you, or do some fun toppings to put to your meals. Here sometimes maybe if I feel like it, I do some marinated tofu or seitan just to have ready, or maybe do some falafels or some veggie burgers that I know that I can quickly then cook and then have as a meal. This is the one that varies the most throughout the week. Experiment here as much as you want. Like do one week try doing some muffins, the next week try to make some falafels maybe, and then the next week do some sourdough bread if you feel like it. Those are the 5 things that you should do if you want to make meal prepping easy for you. I'm going to show you some examples of what I've done this week to meal prep using this method, and stick to the end because that's where I'm going to give you my top 3 tips for meal prepping and some extra advice just to make your life a bit easier. I've talked too much already. Let's start with the first recipe. For the following rice stew dish that I've made, you're gonna need to cut some carrot as well as some mushrooms. Then you're gonna heat your pan and you're gonna let the onions cook with some soya sauce and some spices. I use garlic powder, paprika, oregano and pepper. Then you're also gonna add some olive oil, some tomato paste and some miso paste if you have that. Otherwise you don't need to add it. It's just to give some umami flavor. As soon as the onion is translucent and the spices have cooked for a while, add your veggies and allow them to cook for 2 to 3 minutes. Then you're gonna add some rice that you've rinsed and soaked for 5 to 10 minutes. Mix well together and then add some tomato sauce. I decided to also add some soya chunks, but that's optional. Then add the white beans or whatever beans you have at hand. Mix together and add some water. If you add the soya chunks, add half a cup of water more. Then let it simmer for 20 minutes at low heat. And once the rice is cooked, mix in and allow it to cool down. It's important that you let it cool down before putting it into a Tupperware. This recipe turned out to be so good, and the soya chunks just gave it a very nice texture. Our next recipe is also tomato-based, since I did end up with some tomato sauce left. So for the sauce, you're gonna chop up some celery, add the tomato sauce that you have left, add some nuts. I had mixed nuts, but I would recommend using cashew nuts instead. And for that, you just need to let them soak in boiling water, and this is gonna give you a much creamier sauce. And then finally, add the tofu, along with some salt, black pepper and some oregano, and basically that's it. So this week I didn't have a lot of time, so I decided to make some croutons. I started by preheating the oven at 200 degrees Celsius. I then cut up some bread in square forms, put it in the oven and allowed them to toast. I was very fortunate because I almost burned them, but I think they turned out just perfect. If you want to make it extra fancy, you can always add some oregano or whatever spice mix blend you have at hand. Moving on to the roasting veggies. This week I had some aubergine that was about to go bad, so I'm glad I decided to roast this one. And then I also chose to roast some pumpkin, which I think is my favorite roasted veggie. And I started off by taking the seeds because we were gonna save them for another recipe. This is a very tedious and time-consuming process, but it's totally worth it. I decided to cut the pumpkin in squares, and also it was the first one that I put in the oven because it's the one that takes longest to cook compared to the eggplant. So that's something to keep in mind with your veggies. Whatever you choose, remember that some cook faster than others. While the pumpkin was roasting, I decided to cut my aubergine into smaller pieces because I didn't have a lot of time and I wanted them to cook faster. And in my case, I didn't have a very big oven tray, so I had to do the pumpkin first and then do the aubergine. And for seasoning, I just did it plain and simple, some salt and some black pepper, but you can totally experiment here and do some nutritional yeast or some oregano, or again, whatever spice mix blend that you have at hand. Then once they're cooled down, place them in the Tupperware and they're ready to use. Remember those pumpkin seeds from earlier? Well, this week I'm gonna roast them, and that's gonna be my secret component. I almost burned them because I got a bit distracted, so I had to throw a few out. But normally when they do turn out less burned, they're perfect to top anything from a salad to just my rice stew. But those were the 5 things that I did for meal prepping this week. Very easy. Literally everything took me 2-3 hours to do, kind of. Basically, it was very fast and very simple. And I have food for almost the whole week now. Now, after having explained the method and having shown you an example of how to use the method, I'm gonna give you my top 3 tips of meal prepping just to make your life even easier. Tip 1. How to go about this in the best way possible is to plan around the main dish that you're gonna make for that week. What I mean by that is that once you have the main dish chosen, go grocery shopping for the things that you need for that dish and buy some extra stuff if you already know, for example, that you're also gonna be baking some muffins. If you don't have some of the ingredients there, try not to buy too much that you know you're not going to use for the main dish. Buy a bit more of the other things and then use those to make the other thing. For example, this week I knew I was going to be making something with tomato sauce, so I did buy some extra tomatoes, and that's also why I then made the tomato sauce. It's also important before you start doing your main dish to have already everything ready in front of you, because then you can put things in the oven to bake, like the roasted veggies, and while that's in the oven, then you can start cooking your one pot dish or make the sauce in the meantime while you wait for the veggies to roast or the cake to bake. Going on from there comes tip number 2. Use the oven. It's your best friend. Literally. You can do oven tray dishes, like I said before, for your main dish while you're roasting veggies. Saves you so much more time for even the meal prepping section. You can do other things around your room while you wait. You're saving time and you're optimizing your time at the same time with the oven. It's your best friend. And then tip number 3, this is the most controversial one, but don't follow recipes. Get inspired by recipes instead. So very often I save a lot of recipes, I see the list of ingredients and I get discouraged to cook it. So instead, use what you have and get inspired by a recipe. You don't need all those extra fancy ingredients that sometimes some recipes include. Instead of worrying about going to buy them and spending extra money on something that maybe you're gonna use for one dish, use what you have at hand and experiment with it. That's kind of why I love saving recipes, not to actually make them, but to get inspired. Try to adjust the recipe to fit around what you have instead of trying to fit what you have to a recipe, because that tends to be harder and then you get discouraged. And then now a note of caution to take here is don't take it too far. If the whole dish is based around a food, then you should probably get that food. And here also comes to the spices, if you don't have some of the spices, because sometimes you can take it too far, adding for example paprika instead of cumin, which don't have the same flavor profile, and that just will make a dish that you might not want to eat throughout the week. So try not to experiment too much, especially if you're just beginning, because at the start I used to do that a lot, and let me tell you, I had to eat a lot of things that were not that enjoyable. My dog would smell it and be like,
nope, not even I can eat that.
so yeah, but to sum up, meal prepping can be a bit scary at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. And doing the 5 things I normally do for meal prepping is the best way for you to start. The most important thing for meal prepping to be successful for you is to practice and practice. Every week you get better and better. Anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you found this helpful, and if you did find it helpful and you liked it, of course, please leave this video a big thumbs up so I am aware of your needs and I know what to provide you. Comment down below what's your go-to recipe to meal prep if you meal prep, and if you don't meal prep, what's your go-to meal at the moment? Mine would have to be anything that has pasta. Yeah, right now after this I might just make some lasagna for the week. Anyways, last but not least, if you want to see more of me, remember to subscribe and hit the little notification bell so you get notified when I upload every week. Remember to take care of yourselves, have a lovely day, evening or night, whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye! I'm gonna go make some lasagna. Yes, we're gonna make that lasagna.